Hi, everybody. Welcome to Leaning Left. I'm David Rodriguez. So today I want to talk about the conflict going on between Israel and Palestine. And, I haven't talked about it a lot before because if I'm going to be completely honest, and I always try to be, I'm not any kind of expert in the region. The history of that area has been, really very complicated for a lot of reasons. And I think a lot of people here in America maybe don't have a good grasp on it. And so it's one of those things that's sort of hard to talk about if you don't feel like you know a lot of what's happened. And I bring that up because this situation, like many situations, has its very complicated parts, which again, the whole history there, and the parts that are not so complicated, which is what I want to get into now. I mean, I shouldn't say they're not complicated. There's a lot of complicated feelings about it. So in that sense, it is complicated. I do think that there are some things that should be easy to understand that I would hope most people agree with. If you don't, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to have that discussion as long as it's, respectful to each other. I'm okay with that. So if you don't know why this specific current issue is going on, and I imagine you do if you're watching this, on October 7th, 2023, Hamas attacked Israel relatively out of the blue. There's some stuff about whether or not it was actually that shocking or not, but regardless, I guarantee the people who were affected by that were not expecting it. Over 1,000 people died. Most of them, of course, from Israel. There were some foreign dignitaries as well. And right about 250 hostages were taken as well. Now, forgive me for not getting super into details, but I mean, that's just the basic gist of what happened. And to say that it's horrific, that's a massive understatement. The fact that so many civilians were targeted, men, women, children, everybody was fair game. There's been reports of, sexual assaults that occurred, and that wouldn't shock me. It's awful. It's truly, truly awful, and it should never have happened. It was a terrorist attack. There's nothing that I could even imagine pointing to in the history that makes this okay, even though I understand that there's some reasons why the people of Palestine may be sort of upset with Israel. Now, I would hope that everyone would agree that when that happens, a country has every right to defend itself and to demand those hostages be returned and retaliate in some way. I would hope most people would agree with that. I think, when we've been attacked, I think most people were completely okay with the idea that we would go and try to resolve that issue, and it would probably involve some kind of violence. And that's no different here, but the difference is the degree. Now, I'm about to criticize the Israeli government. There's a lot of people who, if you criticize anything that Israel is doing, they immediately say you're anti-Semitic. And I think that's insane. Their President Netanyahu, he has an extremely, extremely low approval rating. Last I heard, it was like 18% approval, something like that. Like, it's not great. Much like Donald Trump here, he basically is holding off as long as he can so he can stay out of prison. But he's way far right. And everyone who he surrounds himself with are really far right too. So when the majority of the people in Israel don't like the leader of their government, I think it's safe to say that it is not anti-Semitic to criticize what that government's doing. So Israel began attacking back. And since that time, right around 35,000 Palestinians have been killed. So we've gone way beyond equal retaliation, way, way, way beyond. And I certainly get the anger here because there are still hostages over there that should not be there. Now, what I don't understand here is they're, firing missiles at this place, leveling things, but at least as far as I know, they don't know where the hostages are being held. So how do they know in this attempt to just level everything, they're not killing their own people? I'd almost be shocked if they're not. And doing this, by the way, is not going to stop Hamas. It's not going to end Hamas. The leaders of Hamas, most of them aren't even in Palestine. They're all over the place over there. And what this is doing is it's going to make it a lot easier for Hamas to recruit people. Because what the people of Palestine are going through right now is horrible. Israel is essentially using starvation as a weapon and not letting supplies get through to them. There are entire families eating grass because that's all they have. People are starving to death. Children are starving to death. To say nothing of the danger of being bombarded. And, they've told them, oh, go this way to be safe, but then they plan to attack that same place that they just told them to go to very soon thereafter. There's literally nowhere for these people to go. And so we've reached this point now where I have trouble calling that anything but a genocide. And that's a pretty damn strong word, I know that, but I can't see how it is something else. And the tough part is I as much as I can, not having been there, I understand the anger. I get why. I mean, I don't speak for them. I can understand why every single person living in Israel would be rightfully enraged at what Hamas did. But we have to understand that the entirety of Palestine is not Hamas. The leaders are, and they're not going to be chased out of power. I don't even know if there's a path to make that happen. But the people of Palestine are not that. Now, to add on to all this, Israel is a U.S. ally. It has been for a long, long time. And as a result, the U.S. is supplying them with weapons and whatnot. I guess recently Joe Biden did stop a weapon shipment from going over there. Yeah, not sure if that was purposeful or just like a clerical error. I don't know. And that's frightening because, oh my goodness, what are we a part of right now? I think I've said before on the channel that there will never be a president, ever, that you or I agree with 100%. And this is the area that I don't agree with how Biden has handled things, at least as far as what we can see. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There could be a lot more serious, I'm sure there are more serious talks going on and actions being taken, but I don't know what those are. So I can't speak on that. I can only tell you what I've seen. Now, don't get me wrong, if Donald Trump was president, I am certain this would be way, way worse, because him and Netanyahu are peas in a pod. I mean, if anything, I think the Israeli government would get a lot more weapons, and who knows, maybe even boots on the ground help from the United States under Trump, because he loves the right-wing dictators. And I guess I shouldn't call Netanyahu a dictator, but he's kind of borderline in my opinion, but anyway, he loves that kind of person. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running, has called the Palestinians the most pampered people on earth, despite the fact that for a long time now, people have described their living situation as being that of or akin to an open-air prison. So I don't feel like he'd be likely very helpful there either. So yeah, of those three, I would still say Joe Biden is the guy to go for, because he at least can be pushed by the populace in certain directions. The other two, not so much, and where they're starting at isn't good. Now, I realize I have made this kind of complicated, but I guess my thought was I didn't want to go back to being like, well, yeah, but they attacked because of this thing that happened, and that happened because of this thing that happened, and so on, back forever, because it's a lot. It's too much to even get into. The terrorist attack was horrific and wrong and shouldn't happen and demanded a reaction. No doubt. Absolutely. The reaction has been too much. It will not get the job done. And is likely to radicalize anyone who happens to survive that reaction. I guess to finish this off, terrorist attacks are terrible. I wish we could stop that. I hope someday we figure out a way to. But in the meantime, the reaction to terrorism cannot be genocide. And I feel like right now, that's what's happening. It has to stop. So, please, as I mentioned, I think Joe Biden is someone who will listen to the people. So I support all these protests that are demanding a ceasefire or just something else be worked out that is reasonable. I don't condone violent protests in any way for any cause. But peaceful protests, yeah, I think we should. Because it's important that our leadership, whoever they may be, knows what we're thinking. And they know how it's being perceived. Because right now it's not good. It needs to change. Anyway, that's what I think. But let me know what you think in the comments. I know this is there's a lot of passionate feelings on this topic. I get that. You may disagree with me completely. I understand that too. But I'm welcome, or I'm happy to hear any sort of disagreeing opinion, but I need to understand why. Because I can't fathom a way to excuse these things that are happening to the people in Gaza right now. I can't figure out a way to make that be okay or the right response. I just can't. So, if you liked this video, or if you want to hear more of my thoughts on other things, please hit like and subscribe and click the bell icon so you can know about the next time I put out a video. And in the meantime, stay woke, stay vigilant, keep fighting, and remember, if you keep leaning left, you'll always be right.